What's good, people? Time for another Magic Man review. And for this review, going down a blast in the past, all down memory lane to one of the classics. Alright? Now, before there was Coast to Coast AM, before Graham Hancock, before Mauro Biglino, and before Ancient Aliens, there were Chariots of the Gods by Erich von Daniken. Now, this book was like one of the originals that came out that put out the theory that the gods or God in the Bible and all the many of the other different religions and mythologies that are prevalent around the world weren't really divine beings. They weren't deities. These were actually aliens, humanoid aliens that came down and they gave civilization to human beings. And they might have genetically tinkered around with human beings and made them in our image. Okay? So, Mauro Biglino gets into a lot of this. But if you read the Bible, if you read some of the, some of the Hindu texts, it tells you, if you read it at face value without putting any kind of religious meaning to it, you'll see it's like these people are flying around in spaceships. Okay, these people are extraterrestrial beings. That's one, you can infer whatever you want to about that. I have my own opinions, but there's a lot of speculation out there that that's what actually happened. And Erich von Daniken put that out there long before Ancient Aliens that you'll see in television. I think Erich von Daniken actually appears in Ancient Aliens. So he's one of the ones that put that out there. Beforehand, people in the Western world were very religious, and this idea has kind of escaped them. All right, some of the learned people, not so much. If you look at some of the paintings back in the medieval days, you'll see UFOs in there. They actually paint UFOs in the paintings. It's pretty cool. Now, this book is dated. It was written in 1968. I got my copy like when I was in grade school back in the 80s. I read this as a kid, so this is probably more of a conspiratorial kind of guy. I don't like the narrative. Always looking, well, what are they not really telling me? I want to know the truth. Truth seeker. But it is dated, and you'll really, when you read it, not so much the first 3/4 of the book, but the last quarter of the book, you'll say, this is kind of dated. A lot of the stuff in here that they thought at the time didn't really pan out. I'll give you a hint. Overpopulation. They thought overpopulation was going to be a big thing back in the 60s and 70s. They thought that well, this wasn't the 50s and 60s. This either went back to the turn of the century to around the eugenics movement and why they did a lot of the things that they did, why the Third Reich did the things that they did, why the United States and Britain did a lot of things they did, why we have Planned Parenthood today. They thought the world was going to be overpopulated. So they started introducing measures to lower the population. But after they've done that, present day, guess what? They're saying, oh, now we're underpopulated. We're going to go extinct. They can't make up their minds, Some of these scientists and eggheads, they think they have all the answers sometimes, but you can't really predict the future. And they tried to, I guess they had good intentions, but sometimes it just didn't pan out, And if you're like a millennial or younger, some of this stuff's not going to make sense to you because there was still Rhodesia and the USSR when he wrote this book, right? And they thought the war was going to be obsolete because of nuclear weapons. Nah, it didn't happen. Sorry. Wish it did. The book is Eurocentric in that it's written with the Western mindset. If you read like Chinese literature, stuff that people from Asia come out with and how they view things, they have more of a Confucian way of looking at life. It's different from a Western mindset. It's not a bad thing. I mean, we are what we are, but just take that, when you're reading the book, it's like, okay, it's written from somebody who lived during this time, and this is how they thought. This is what they were thinking at the time. And it didn't pan out. But The really good stuff in this book is, I would say, the first three quarters. They ask if he asks if human life originated on Mars. Were the gods just advanced space aliens that came down and gave technology to humans? And he presents a lot of different evidence for this stuff. And he's not making it definitive. He's not saying this is what happened. He's saying, could this have happened? He's giving a hypothesis. He's putting it out there, giving you the information, and he's letting you run with it. See what you think. Okay? And that's good to me. I don't really care for people to say, well, this is a fact. This is how it happened. You weren't there, dude. You don't know what happened. Some guy wrote it down on some paper, a lifetime after it happened. You're speculating. But he points out a lot of evidence for a lot of the lost technology that human beings were in possession of thousands and thousands of years ago, and stuff we just can't figure out even how to replicate to this day. It's like, well, how do they lift these giant stones, these giant rocks up into the air to do this stuff? We can't even do it today with all the technology that we have. With our huge cranes that we have that can make skyscrapers, we can't lift these really huge stones that are found all over the world. And even though it's dated, his mindset, you'll really love it because he goes against the narrative. Like I said before this, people were very religious, and they went to church, or they went to the mosque, or they went to the temple, or whatever they do in Judaism. They asked their rabbi, says, what does this mean? And the rabbi would interpret the scriptures, or the priest, or the imam, and they would interpret the scriptures from what they were told it meant. Okay? Very few people speculated on this stuff. Alright? But he goes against the grain and really puts it out there. And we can see that today, that there's always a narrative. They always come out with a narrative, their own little narrative, and you can call it a boomer narrative, but each generation has their own narrative. Like when I went to college, I had an astronomy class, and the professor in the astronomy class told me that human beings can't go back onto the moon like we did in the 60s because we lost the technology. Now, that just raised a big red flag for me. I'm thinking to myself, what are you telling me that we lost the technology? Like, oops! All that NASA research and all those archives and all the notes they took down how to do this stuff, it just got, lost. They had a garage sale and they just sold off all the documentation. When people tell me that stuff, it's like, what, you think I'm stupid? I mean, I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but come on. I'm not that dumb. You got a Saturn rocket sitting there in Houston. Tell me you lost the technology. It's sitting right there. Even if you had kind of like, reinvent the technology because all the people retired who worked on the program, you can go back engineer the rocket. It's sitting right there. The Saturn rocket is sitting in Houston right now, right there. The Chinese back engineer stuff all the time. All the time. And you tell me you can't back engineer that Saturn rocket? So there's always this narrative they put out there. And it's just my nature. I'm kind of a contrarian. If you say something, I'm going to point out different aspects of it. It's just, I like messing with people like that. And this book was groundbreaking for its time. It really led to a lot of different people coming up with their different theories. And you'll see a whole bunch of podcasts, and they'll say, yeah, this is where I got started. This is where it really sparked my mind to find out different stuff that's happened in the world. The science can't explain it. The narrative can't explain it. I think I've said enough about this book. It's a little short little read. You could probably pick up a copy at your local bookstore. It's an older copy. He's got other books too. They're just as good, but I was going to do this one because this is the one that started it all. Chariots of the Gods by Erich von Daniken. Until next time, people.